The prison gates creaked open, but there was no entourage, no press. Just Ibrahim Traoré walking alone in silence. Guards whispered. Inmates paused. "Why is he here?" one muttered. The president of a nation stepping into a cell block by choice. Not for ceremony, for something heavier. And whatever it was, it rattled the walls before he even spoke. He passed men whose crimes had shaped the country's pain. Eyes followed him, some with hate, others with shame. Traoré didn't flinch. He wasn't here to judge them. He was here to face them. To face himself. In cell 47, a man waited. An old general. The man who once called him boy. The man who ordered the bullets that missed. The general rose slowly. Same uniform. Same cold stare. "Come to gloat?" he asked. Traoré shook his head. "I came to remember." The room thickened with tension. "You locked up many," he added, "but justice can't be stored behind bars. It breathes. Or it dies." The general laughed dryly. "And now you breathe it?" "No," Traoré whispered. "I carry it." In the next corridor, a boy no older than 20 stared at Traoré from behind iron. "Sir, do you know me?" Traoré paused. Something familiar in the eyes. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. "I was arrested during the protests. They forgot to release me." Silence. Rage boiled beneath Traoré's still face. How many more did they forget? Traoré turned to the warden. "He's free as of now." "I'll sign it myself." The warden hesitated. "You're not authorized." Traoré leaned closer. "I authorize this nation's peace." "That should be enough." If you believe freedom means fixing forgotten names, comment justice below. Some stories demand more than memory. They demand action. Down another corridor, Traoré paused. A former journalist, now pale and coughing, sat hunched on a cot. "You wrote the truth," Traoré said quietly, "and paid the price." The man smiled. "Truth is cheap. It's the silence afterward that costs the most." A guard shifted uncomfortably. Traoré turned. "Open his door." Outside the cell, the air grew thick. "Orders must go through channels," the officer said. "And I am the channel today," Traoré replied. Keys jingled. The door opened. No celebration. Just a breath deep and human from a man unseen for years. "I thought the silence won," he whispered. "It did, until now," Traoré said. They entered a forgotten wing. Damp, unlit, and full of shadows. "This part isn't on any tour," the warden said nervously. "Exactly," Traoré replied. A guard muttered, "Why do you care about these men?" Traoré stopped. "Because if I ignore this place, then the people who lock them here still win." At the final cell, Traoré spoke not to a prisoner, but to the wall. "Some of you died without a verdict. Some without even a name." He laid a white cloth on the ground. "This is not a memorial. This is an apology. If you believe forgotten lives still deserve dignity, share this." Their silence needs echoes. They reached a cracked door, barely hanging on rusted hinges. A guard whispered, "This one. He hasn't spoken in years." Traoré knelt beside the metal. "You don't have to speak. I'm just here to listen." Silence followed, then a slow, muffled sob. Not a confession. Just proof a voice still lived inside. In the courtyard, guards gathered nervously. One asked, "Why now?" Traoré faced them. "Because justice isn't a building. It's what we do when no one's watching." Another added, "But these are criminals." Traoré looked him in the eye. "And some were just caught before the real ones." A former activist limped into the light. "You once called me brother," he said to Traoré. "Then you forgot me." Traoré's jaw tightened. "I didn't forget. I failed." The man looked away. "Then help me walk again." "I will," Traoré said. "But first, I'll walk beside you." A file room held hundreds of unmarked folders. "These are the unprocessed," the warden said. They weren't charged? Some weren't even booked properly. Traoré stared at the pile. They gave us numbers, and we gave them nothing. He sat. Bring me a pen. He began reading, file after file, stories lost in red tape, men jailed for holding signs, women vanished for asking questions. Justice delayed, he murmured, his dignity denied. Around him, officers fell silent. The president was doing what the system refused to, acknowledging names. A janitor peeked in. Why are you doing this? Traoré didn't look up. Because they cleaned the past with lies. I'm just sweeping what's left. If you believe truth is still worth dusting off like this video, some stories get buried. Others fight back. Midday turned to dusk. Still, Traoré read. Fingers stained by ink and grief. A child's name appeared. 12. Arrested for throwing rocks. He died here, the guard said. Fever. Traoré circled the name. No, he was killed by neglect. And he underlined it twice. As he walked back toward the cells, inmates tapped their doors in rhythm. Not noise, not protest, just acknowledgement. A sound he hadn't heard before, respect from those society erased. The warden muttered, They're watching you. Good, Traoré said. Let them learn. In the central hall, he addressed every man and woman within earshot. I didn't come to forgive or to forget. I came to face you, all of you, and to remind this nation that a wall doesn't erase a name, it only delays its echo. Silence thundered louder than applause. As he stepped out, a child stood at the gate, Suleiman's younger brother. Are you coming back? Traoré knelt. Not alone. Next time, I'll bring light. If you believe change starts where light doesn't reach, subscribe. This isn't the end. It's only the opening door. News broke within hours. President enters prison alone. Traoré bypasses all protocol. Talk shows raged. Some praised courage. Others warned instability. Traoré watched silently. I didn't enter for noise, he told his aide. I entered for names that never made headlines. In a televised panel, an opposition leader scoffed. He's playing savior. But a former inmate called in, voice shaking. I was forgotten until today. He walked past my cell and called me by name. No camera. Just truth. That clip went viral because pain recognizes authenticity. An ambassador asked, What's your endgame? Traoré replied, To empty prisons of injustice faster than we fill them with shame. Diplomats shifted. No leader dismantles the walls that protect him. Traoré's voice stayed calm. Then I'm not a leader. I'm just a man who hates locked doors. In the courtyard, young Suleiman stood by his brother's grave. Traoré joined him, hat in hand. No words can clean this, he said. The boy nodded. But names can protect the next one. They planted a tree, not to replace a life, to shade a memory. Old prison logs surfaced, ink-stained records, misspelled names, wrong dates, right pain. Traoré ordered a team. Digitize everything. Every forgotten person will be remembered in order, in spelling, in honor. It wasn't justice, but it was restoration. A mother sent a message. Tell him my son died nameless, but now I've heard it spoken. Her voice cracked. Thank you. If you believe forgotten voices matter more than perfect policies, share this story. Their names are waiting. In the Capitol, students staged a silent march. No slogans. Just names held on paper. Oprah retweeted it. No hashtags. Just truth. The silence marched farther than speeches, because sometimes the quiet carries the loudest thunder. Traoré declined interviews. No studio edits silence, right? Instead, he wrote one letter. To every prison, count again. And count them as people, not numbers. The letter leaked. It was posted on doors, lockers, classroom walls. It was more than ink. It was a command. An inmate released after 15 years visited the courthouse. No appeal, no lawyer, just free. A clerk asked, "What will you do now?" He replied, "Live loudly enough to honor my years in silence." Traoré read that line 3 times, then closed his eyes and smiled. In the final news segment that week, a reporter said, "He went in with no guards, came out with thousands watching." But a child corrected her. "No, he came out with names." If you believe names hold more power than titles, comment, "Names matter." Late at night, Traoré walked alone through the city. No convoy. A woman stepped out of her door. "You remembered my nephew," she said. Traoré nodded. "I had to." "No, you chose to." That difference hit deeper than praise. Some wounds don't need apologies, just acknowledgement. In Parliament, critics roared. "You overstepped." Traoré stood. "No, I stepped where the law forgot to." Gasps followed. He continued, "Justice written is theory. Justice walked is leadership." And that walk had already begun through hallways most leaders avoid. An artist painted a mural. Traoré, seated on the prison floor, surrounded by names. No crown, just paper and dirt. The caption read, "Power sits lower than pride." People came from miles away to see it, not to praise, to remember. A small village held a candlelight vigil, no speeches, just names. Some whispered, some shouted, but each one lit a flame. When Traoré saw the photos, he said, "We built courts. Now we must build memory, because justice forgets too quickly." At a school event, a boy raised his hand. "What if we grow up and forget all this?" Traoré replied, "Then write it down. Say it at dinner, paint it on walls. Justice doesn't age. It just needs witnesses." The boy nodded. That answer would follow him forever. A former guard anonymously sent a letter. "I obeyed silence." But he obeyed conscience. It ended with, "I'm sorry." If you believe conscience deserves more praise than obedience, like this video, history listens harder than you think. The new prison directive came, no more unnamed detentions. All sentencing reviewed, a new wing renamed, the witness block, a space where stories were preserved, not erased. Traoré visited quietly. He didn't smile, but he didn't need to. A little girl visited with her mother. "My father died in that place," the mother said. The girl looked up. "But he's everywhere now." She pointed to the news, the candles, the wall of names. Traoré whispered, "Then he's louder than ever." An old cell was left untouched. Inside, one name etched on the wall, faded, but still there. Traoré stared, then added a line beneath it. "You weren't alone." No cameras captured it. Only the dust nodded. Final reforms passed, not because of votes, because of volume. Because people whispered, remembered, mourned, and then marched. If this story shook something silent inside you, share it. Let justice echo farther than bars ever reached. A university added a class, Justice in Action, the textbook. Testimonies from those once imprisoned. One student asked, "Is this history or warning?" The professor answered, "Both, but it only stays warning if you listen." Traoré visited the class. He said nothing, just sat in the back. A documentary aired, The Silence We Inherited. It didn't show Traoré's speeches, only the faces he listened to, their pauses, their scars, their names. One line stayed with every viewer. He gave us no answers, just the space to ask. A warden retired quietly, no medals. Just a letter he left on his desk. We followed orders. He followed justice. The final line read, "I hope my grandchildren never learn law before they learn empathy." New laws required all prisoner files to include 1 page. Their version of the truth. Some were blank, some were poetry, some were rage. All were kept. Because silence is not the absence of story, just the refusal to hear one. A mural was unveiled, a hallway filled with shadows. At the end, one figure small, still, holding a paper. The caption: "He didn't free us. He reminded us we were never supposed to be buried." A teenager wrote, "He didn't teach me justice. He showed me it's unfinished." If this story moved you to remember, to reflect, or to speak, comment "unfinished" below. Because the most powerful stories never truly end. In a rural school, a child stood up during roll call. "My father was prisoner 7824, she said, "but his name is Halil. And he taught me that even if your name is erased, your voice doesn't have to be." An ex-prisoner became a teacher. His students didn't know his past, until one day he pointed to a chalkboard and wrote, "Before justice freed me, I freed myself with truth." They clapped not for his pain, for his clarity. Suleiman now works in archives, cataloging names, dates, faces. One folder simply reads, "Unknown." He holds it longest, and whispers before shelving it, "You were someone?" That whisper echoes louder than any verdict. A journalist asked Traoré, "What did this visit change?" He replied, "Nothing outside, but everything inside." If stories like this help you look inward like this video, reflection isn't soft, it's sharp. A photo circulated, Traoré holding a candle in a dark corridor. No caption, but the world captioned it anyway. Light doesn't fix everything, but it tells you where the cracks are. An old inmate, now free, was seen leading a town hall. He said, "I don't want revenge. I want repetition to end." The room stood still, because sometimes leadership begins when punishment ends. Traoré visited no more prisons, not because he was done, but because the nation had started going in without him. Ministers, citizens, students. One man's choice had opened a door many chose to walk through. A teacher in Ghana created a new assignment: interview someone whose name was almost lost. Essays poured in. One student wrote, "I spoke to a man with no plaque, but his story built cities in my head." Final prison report released, over 2,000 names restored. Hundreds freed, tens of thousands heard. But no press release followed, just a note on the last page. Let memory finish what policy began. Traoré gave his last speech quietly, to no crowd. Just a circle of youth. "I entered a place meant to forget, but I remembered everything. And so must you." That prison wing now houses books, letters, voices. Tourists enter expecting horror, leave holding hope, because pain can echo, but so can repair. A girl left a note on the wall. "My mother once cried here. Now I read here." And with that, a cycle ended. Or maybe began. And in his journal, on the final page, Traoré wrote, "The prison held bodies, but injustice held names. Today, we free both." If this story deserves breath beyond your screen, share it, because freedom isn't just walking out, it's walking back in.